Hey, good morning. Today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite quotes from a gentleman named Myron Golden. It goes like this: all work works. All work works. It's either working for you or it's working on you. And guys, I'm going through a season in my life where this has just been so important to me. And so I want to share it with you. But so often, as human beings, we love the work that is working for us, but we want nothing to do with the work that is working on us. And, I can't help but think about some of the people that have had some tremendous success in their life, but they had to go through a lot of work that was working on them in order to become the people that were ready to have the success when it came. One of the things that I've found out in this life is that God loves us so much that as a good father, he doesn't want to give us things that are going to hurt us. I think I told the ice cream story, multiple times. Some of you have probably heard it more than once, but I think it makes a lot of sense today in in reference to the topic that I'm talking about here. And that is there's this family, a mom and a dad, and they've got their little boy or their little girl there at the fairgrounds with them. The little boy, little girl is 3 years old, 4 years old, and it's a pretty hot, sunshiny day. And long story short, they come walking past this ice cream truck, and they're serving ice cream cones out of this out of this vehicle, and they want an ice cream cone. So being a good dad, the dad goes and buys an ice cream cone. And I'm not going to say little boy or little girl all day long. So let's just assume they had a little girl. They got a little girl and she wants ice cream. They go buy her, whatever, a scoop of vanilla. And they hand it to her. And you can just imagine this little 3-year-old with this ice cream cone. And right as she starts to lick it, before she hardly gets one good lick in, because of the heat and the sun, and she's so young and not used to, an ice cream cone, it literally, the top, it plops off the ice cream. It plops out of the cone and down onto the ground. There it is, melting down onto the ground, into a pile of blub. And right about that time, this gentleman is at the ice cream truck, and he walks away from the ice cream truck with this great big huge 4-scoop ice cream cone. And the little girl's like, Daddy, 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 I want that. I want that. Daddy, I want that big ice cream cone. Now, let me ask you a question. As a responsible father, are you going to go buy your daughter that 4-scoop ice cream cone when when she just proved that she couldn't handle 1 scoop? Well, of course, as humans, we all know that none of us would go buy our kid that big 4-scoop ice cream cone when they couldn't even handle 1 scoop. And guys, I think that is an incredible metaphor for life. I heard that story a little over 20 years ago by a gentleman named T. Harv Eker, and it's stuck with me all of these years because I think that's a good representation a lot of times with God in our lives. He wants us to be able to take care of the scoop that we have before he starts giving us another scoop. You've all heard the story of the talents too, which is similar, where God gives 3 different men a talent in the Bible. He gives one guy 5 talents. He gives another guy 2 talents. He gives a third guy 1 talent. And then he leaves on a journey and he tells his servants to, help, take that money and do whatever they want to do with it, but to multiply the money. And the gentleman with 5 goes out and builds a business, is very industrious, entrepreneurial, and he turns his 5 talents into 10. And back in that day, they're talking about money. Talents were money. The gentleman with 2 talents goes out, works real hard, is very industrious, and he turns his 2 talents into 4 talents. And then the third gentleman, who was scared of his master because he knows that his master is a harsh man and very, very good at making his money multiply. He's so scared that he's going to lose the master's talent that he just goes and buries it. And then after, a few years, the master comes back, and sure enough, he wants an accounting from his servants. And the first servant is like, "Master, I have turned your 5, I've turned your 5 into 10." And the master says, "Good job, good and faithful servant," and blesses him with cities. It says in the Bible, it blesses him with cities. So not just a city, but cities. Like, he blesses this guy's hard work and diligence, and the ability that he doubled these 5 talents into 10 gets blessed, by the master. The gentleman that had the 2 talents comes up and tells the master, "Master, I've turned your 2 talents into 4 talents." And the master says, once again, "Well done, good and faithful servant," and gives him, a bunch of things to rule over and to manage and to work on, and increases his wealth, multiple times. And then the third guy comes walking up with his tail tucked in between his legs and tells the master, like I just said, "Master, I knew that you were a harsh man and this and that, and I was scared to lose your money, and so I buried it. But here you go. I have your 1 talent." And I'm paraphrasing here, but in the Bible, it says that the man basically calls this servant wicked. Says, "You wicked, wicked man. Why didn't you at least go put this talent in the bank and earn interest on it if you were scared that you were going to lose it?" And so it's just another example in the Bible of, where God wants to see us being good stewards of what we have before he gives us more. So, back onto this topic, all work works. It's either working for you or it's working on you. And one of the examples that comes to mind, from the same gentleman, Myron Golden, is he got involved in a company. It was back in, I want to say that he says somewhere around like April of 1985. And it was in sales and investment company. And for the next year and a half, he didn't make 1 sale, and he did a lot of presentations. So, I think there's 2 things about this story that are meaningful that hopefully you guys can kind of glean out of this. The first thing is that a year and a half later, after getting no sales in this business, in this company, he was still talking to people. He was still doing presentations. It's kind of funny to me that even like right now with Texitcoin, I have a pretty big team of people in Texitcoin that are doing fantastic things. But I also have some other people in Texitcoin that bought miners and that wanted to share them with people. And they literally will come back to me a week after, they got their miner and they started talking to people, and they'll say, "Hey, Brad, I've talked to a bunch of people. Nobody wants Texitcoin miners. Everybody's negative about crypto. Nobody wants is even remotely interested in Texitcoin miners." And I'm like, "Okay, how many people have you talked to in the last week?" And they're like, "I don't know, 4 or 5. And I just kind of laugh. Over the weekend, I messaged about 200 people just on Saturday alone. I went through my phone and I sat here with my television on in the background, kind of doing some other stuff, and I messaged about 200 people about Texitcoin, knowing that probably 190 of them would maybe never even respond to me, but I was okay with that because the 5 or 10 that were interested and see the vision the same way that I do would be well worth the opportunity. But, just, to go backwards, like nothing that you ever have done in your life are you going to be good at within, 3 or 4 or 5 people. And, here this Myron Golden went a year and a half without one sale, yet he was still on the path. And long story short, he finally got his first sale. And within a very, very short period of time, he was the number one salesperson in that company for months and months and months and months on end, and started earning over $10,000 a month consistently all the way back in 2007, or excuse me, 1987. And that journey, that year and a half of failure in learning how to sell and persuade has caused him to make hundreds of millions of dollars in his lifetime. Another quick story that I was reading, I might get some of the facts wrong, but bear with me. A gentleman named Colonel Sanders, who some of you might know, the founder of Kentucky Fried Chicken. He actually had a restaurant that served chicken way back in whenever it was, 1965 or 56 or somewhere back there a long time ago. He owned a little restaurant, and there was a highway or a roadway being built, along where his restaurant is. And for whatever reason, the company bypassed where his restaurant was and didn't create an overpass. And because the road just basically went straight by where his restaurant was with no way to get off, his restaurant failed. He went out of business. And so I don't know if you guys know this or not, but at 65 years old, he just basically lost his restaurant. He basically packed up his car with chicken and spices, and he hit the road, and he would go to restaurants and he would get the owner talked into letting him cook up the chicken. In the owner's restaurant, he would cook up the chicken for the owner, and then he would try to sell the owner on buying, on using his recipe and giving him 5 cents per piece of chicken, and the owner of the restaurant got to keep the rest of the profit. And not only did he get told no, but he got thrown out of like restaurant after restaurant after restaurant. If anybody here wants to throw in a guess, if you've heard this story or if you want to throw in a guess, how many restaurants do you think it took before he found somebody that said yes? I would love for you guys, throw some numbers in the chat. How you think he talked to 5 restaurant owners, 10 restaurant owners, 100 restaurant owners, 1,000 restaurant owners, 10,000 restaurant owners, 1,000,000 restaurant owners? I mean, what do you guys think? How many restaurant owners do you think it took for him to find somebody that said yes? Any guesses? Dave says 30. Anybody else in there that would like to gander? Let me see if I can pull this up here while we let me see here. You guys keep guessing while I see if I can pull this up. Let me see here. Okay, so for those of you, let me see here. 150, 25, 40. So it says right here, Colonel Sanders' story of success is famously marked by over 1,000 rejections. 1,000 times, guys, people told him no, told him he was crazy, hit the road, get back in your car, we're not interested. 1,000 times. How many of you have quit on something in your life after one rejection or 3 or 5? 1,000 times this man went into a restaurant and tried to sell them on the idea of his Kentucky Fried Chicken before he got a yes. But he got one yes that turned into 5 yeses, which turned into 20 or 30 yeses. And now, guys, Kentucky Fried Chicken is all over the world. It's in multiple countries. I forget how many pieces of chicken get sold a day. But, the moral of the story is, I guarantee you that when he went in and cooked the chicken for the first restaurant owner, his presentation was nowhere near as good as it was the 1,000th time. Part of what he probably had to learn, he had to have some skills that he didn't have yet in life in order to be successful. He knew how to cook good chicken, but was he any good at all at sales and persuasion? Probably not. The fact that it took him over 1,000 presentations to get one person to say, yeah, let's give this a try, tells me that he probably wasn't great, in some areas. And so once again, guys, I want to drill this into you. I've heard this so many times that I finally have it memorized, and that is, all work works. If it's not working for you, it's working on you. But we as humans have a tendency to hate the work that is just working on us. And so often, because we have a bad attitude and all we're focused on is the lack of results, the things that aren't happening that we want to have happen, we don't see the work that is happening on us. We don't see the little changes, the little 1% better that we're getting every day. And so often in life, we quit. We quit before we get to where we need to be because we didn't realize that all of the things that were happening to us that didn't go our way were the most important part of the journey. They were what allowed us to become the people that we needed to become in order to have what we wanted to have. Guys, there's so many of us are adults going through life like that little kid with the ice cream cone that can't handle what they've got, that aren't doing a good job with what they have been, given. Yet we want more. We're dreaming about the bigger house, the bigger car, the more money, all of these things that we want. And those are good things. I'm not saying you shouldn't have those dreams. That's why we're here. We believe here, in freedom. We believe in having an extraordinary life, an above average life. But guys, you can't have an extraordinary life, an above average life, as an ordinary person. It just doesn't work. You can't be average at everything that you do, but get fantastic above average results. And how do you become above average? Well, I know that I've mentioned it a million times, but I go back to, you see, this bookshelf behind me, and once again, like just sitting here, off to the right here, I'm not, these are books that I asked for Christmas because I knew that, the guide to going viral, oversubscribed. These are books that are designed to help you get better views. Hook Point, How to Stand Out in a 3-Second World, is designed to help you create, good hooks for your videos, titles, and different stuff like that. It's just over and over and over. If you haven't read this book, guys, this is an incredible book here, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I could go, on and on and on. Those are just some books that I have sitting, here next to, this isn't even on the bookshelf, Relentless by Tim Grover. So what kind of work works on you? Well, reading the right kind of books will work on you and help you become the person that you need to be to have the success that you want to have. Once again, I don't know, these numbers aren't exact. I don't have these statistics pulled up, but roughly, from what I understand, roughly 85% of people never read a book after high school or college if they go to it. Let me see. I'm going to double check that. What percentage of people never read a book after high school? So here we go. It even pulled up. It says, while the exact statistics vary, sources say that 33 to 58% of high school graduates stop reading books after high school. So can you imagine half of the country, half of the population never reads another book after high school? And guys, I would present to you that one of the traits that I have found in every single successful person that I've ever met, all of my mentors, all of the people that I really love and believe in, one of the traits that they have is they are always learning. They don't know it all. Yeah, of course they are confident and they're proud of themselves for the things that they've learned and that they do know, but they're also humble enough to understand that they don't know it all and that they have to keep on learning. In business, one quick example is a lot of businesses will top out at like $100,000, $200,000 a year in revenue. And one of the big reasons is because the owner of that business doesn't know how to scale. And one of the things that you have to do in business in order to scale is you have to run ads. You have to advertise, whether that's on the radio or TV or Facebook and Instagram. You have to advertise in order to scale a business up into the millions of dollars. Well, that is a skill that most people don't know, and most of them don't even realize they don't know it. But even some that do are just too proud. They try to figure it out all on their own rather than paying somebody that knows how to do it to teach them, or getting some good information, really studying it. But that's just like one little example of always be learning. So, some of you might want to take an inventory of what you're really good at, what skills you have that are amazing, and then also take a look at maybe some of the skills that you're lacking and try to figure out what it is in your life that you could learn how to do that would have a massive impact on the goals and dreams that you are trying to accomplish here in this life. And I know, for most people, sales and persuasion is one of the most profitable skills in the whole world, but it's also one of the skills that people are the most resistant to learning because it's uncomfortable. But I'm telling you guys, you get over it. It's like I have such thick skin. When somebody tells me no, I don't even hear it anymore. Just about everybody that I've talked to, whether it's about Infinite Agape, whether it's about Texit Coin, if we go all the way back, how many of you have ever walked onto a car lot and when the salesman walks out and says, "Hey folks, how you doing today? How can I help you?" have told the salesman, "Man, I'm here ready to buy a car"? I would probably be willing to bet that none of you have ever said that to the salesperson. What do we all say? "Oh, hey, we're just looking. We're just kicking some tires. We're just thinking about some stuff." Like, you all have told the salesperson, "I'm not buying a car today," or like, I'm not here to buy a car. I'm just looking. It's just human nature. Yet how many of you have also walked onto a car lot, told the salesperson that you aren't buying a car, and then you drove off the lot with a car that day? So, guys, No is just a part of life. You're never gonna get good enough, no matter how much training you do, and not everybody's gonna be interested in what you're selling either, no matter how awesome it is. And it's just, you just got to get used to that. Like I give an example sometimes. I used to be a poker dealer back in my previous life. Haven't done that since about 2019, but back from 2000, I think I got my training, my certification done. I think I got my first job dealing poker back in about 2003, and I dealt poker pretty much off and on. There was some breaks, but I dealt poker for the most part till about 2019, and I loved dealing poker. I mean, one of the cool things about it was it was a pretty fun job, in my opinion. For you get to hang around people that are playing poker, that are having fun, that are winning money, losing money. But it was fun, and it was also respectable money. I wasn't killing it, but I made in the ballpark of around $30 an hour or so. And so, it was $1,000 a week, 50,000 a year. Not, like I said, I wasn't killing it, but it was reasonable money. But like for me, one of the things that I loved about it, it was extremely easy to get time off, because in the casino industry, they have, more than enough poker dealers, and they have what they call, extra board dealers. Goodbye, son. Love you. See you later today. They have extra board dealers because they've got a big group of people that just work part-time. So long story short, even when you were a full-time poker dealer, if you wanted extra days off, you could just give your shifts away to other poker dealers and stuff. So I loved the freedom. I was able to pretty much, if I wanted it, a 4-day week, I could have a 4-day week. If, the other thing was you could pick up shifts too. So if you were in the mood to really work hard, you could always find dealers that wanted to give away shifts, and so on and so forth. My point is, guys, as much as I love dealing poker, and as much as I told my friends and family about it, I can't think of anybody that I know that was like a close friend or a close family member or anybody. I can't think of one person that decided to go get schooled and learn how to deal poker and became a poker dealer. And so it's the same thing with any business that I built. Way back in 2004, I got involved in a business called Legal Shield. It was a business that helped people with a membership fee that you could pay a monthly fee, and you would have a lawyer on retainer, in case you got into a situation where you needed an attorney, or if you just had questions. One of the most valuable things about the membership was you could call up and talk to, a lawyer from the law firm on whatever topic you needed advice on. And it was specialized. So if you needed to talk to, a family lawyer about a divorce situation, you didn't get put on the phone, with a criminal attorney. You got put on the phone with a family lawyer. Same thing. If if you managed to get a DWI or something, and you called into the law firm and you were trying to get advice on how to handle this DWI, you didn't get a family lawyer. You got a criminal lawyer, or, a traffic lawyer, and so on and so forth. But my point is, while that was an incredible business, and while that was an incredible membership, in fact, I don't have it right now, and I probably should, but for years and years and years, even after I quit working on the business side of that company, I kept the membership. But my point is my dad, I think my dad was my only family member that joined the business with me. None of my brothers or sisters, none of my close friends, like literally none of my close friends joined that business with me, and so on and so forth. So I guess the other thing that I'm trying to say here is, quit trying to base whether something is successful or going to be good on what your friends and family think about it. I came across a Facebook post yesterday, and I reposted it myself. And let me see if I can find it here real quick so that I, make sure that I say it correctly. Although, I mean, I pretty much know what it says. So it says, when you make big life decisions, don't listen to the people closest to you. Let me say that again. When you're making big life decisions, don't listen to the people closest to you. Listen to the people closest to your goals. When you make a big life decision, don't listen to the people closest to you. Listen to the people closest to your goals. And even better yet, listen to somebody that has your goal, that has had the success that you are looking for. Why would you go talk to your broke brother-in-law about a real estate investment when he's, renting a 2-bedroom apartment and never owned a house? It sounds crazy right now, right? Like, who would do that? Well, all of us have probably taken advice from a family member about something that they really knew nothing about. Like, how many of you have ever asked your family member, a legal question, but your family member's never gone to law school? Your family member's not a lawyer. Like, probably every single one of us have asked our family members legal questions. How many of you have asked your family member about, man, do you think it would be a good idea for me to buy this house? Or, hey, as crypto people, how many of you have ever talked to your family members and tried to, ask them if it was a good idea to buy Bitcoin? Is there anybody here that maybe got involved in crypto but didn't buy any crypto for months or even years after they believed it was a good idea because their family told them they were crazy and that it wasn't going to work, and all of the things that we've heard? Like, crypto's such a perfect example. I've been in crypto now for almost 10 years. My father is the one person, once again, there's a general theme there. My dad and I did most everything together. If I was excited about it, he was excited about it, and vice versa. But like, literally none of my brothers or sisters, really at the time, I can't think, if I think back to like my closest 5 or 10 childhood friends, not one of them got involved in crypto until after I made all of that money going into 2021. At the beginning of 2021, when Bitcoin went all the way up to 64,000 and I had made a couple $1 million in crypto, I had one friend of mine that got involved in crypto. Guess what? He's not involved in crypto anymore. He came in 21, and then he got, he had money on Voyager that he lost when Voyager went under. And, literally, I haven't talked to the guy now in a couple of years. Like, it just, so the amount of people in my own personal, physical sphere of influence that I've helped change their life through cryptocurrency investing is minuscule. I can count the number of people whose lives have been changed in my own direct relationships on one hand. But you know what? I got a bunch of new people whose lives are getting changed with Texitcoin, because even though all of these people had told me no, they didn't want anything to do with crypto for all of these years, I never gave up. I know that crypto is going to be a positive thing in their life, that it's going to help them financially. And so I just keep talking to them. So, one of the gentlemen that came into Texitcoin recently, he literally for 2 or 3 years wanted nothing to do with anything that I talked about. And this was a person, I had his phone number, literally would call him up and have conversations with him, not somebody that just knew me through the YouTube channel. This was a personal friend. And I almost didn't share Texitcoin with him. I literally was going through my phone. I came across his name and I thought, no, that'd be a waste of my time. And I literally started to scroll on to the next person. And then I said, wait a second. And this kind of goes back to the things that are working on you. I said, wait a second, what's the worst that can happen if you give him a call? He can say no again. It's not that big of a deal. He's said no 10 times already about things that you've brought to him. So what? So he could say no again, but at least you've told him, and now it's on him. if 6 months from now, I'm making hundreds of $1,000, have made hundreds of thousands of dollars, and Texas Coin has revolutionized my financial life, at least he can't come back to me and say, hey, Brad, why didn't you ever tell me about it? At least this way, I knew that I gave him the opportunity to say no rather than making the decision for him. Well, that's part of the working on me. In the old days, I probably wouldn't have called him, but because of the books that I've read and the mentorship that I have, I realized, hey, just tell him about it. And so what if he's not interested? And, Eric just says, it's, if I waited on my family, if I waited on my family and friends to give me the green light, I'd still be on the sidelines. Anxious Trader says, how much per week do you make with Texas Coin? Rough estimate. Well, at this point, I've made around $17,000 in a little over a month in USDC that's been paid directly to my MetaMask wallets. I can show the transactions, the hashes. I can prove that. And then at this point, I have 25 miners that are producing anywhere between $15 and $20 or 20 tokens a day. And those tokens have fluctuated, but they've been worth anywhere from as low as $2.75 up to a little over $6 per token. So on average, I'm earning in the ballpark of around $75 to $100 a day in Texas Coin, Anxious Trader. And this is, after 1 month, that's just going to continue to grow. And as Texas Coin hits its price, price predictions and runs up to $20, $30, $40, $50, $80, $100 a token, I believe that is going to continue to just be a massive, massive source of income. Zida, have you ever been scammed by anyone? Yeah, absolutely. So, during the bear market, when I was really looking for a way to not only help myself, but my community, I jumped into a company called Incomation that was helping people pass tests for prop firms. So there's these brokerage firms out there called prop firms. And what they do is if you can pass their test, they will set you up with a trading account and they will fund the account. And then basically you get to trade with their money, and then they do a profit split. I want to say it's like 80-20. 80% of the profit goes to the trader and the prop firm gets 20%. And so I got in and was buying accounts because I found a guy that had a trading bot that would pass the test. Because these prop firms, they charge you $1,000 to take the test. It costs you $1,000 to try to take the test. And if you pass the test, you get the trading account. But if you fail the test, you lose your $1,000. And there's people out there all day long trying over and over and over to pass these prop firm tests. And a lot of the normal person, even with some trading experience, is going to fail. So these prop firms are slurping up these $1,000 bills. But then I also found out the hard way after getting my account set up. The trading bot worked, it passed the test, and then we were able to connect the trading bots to the accounts, and we were doing very, very well. We were doing massive profit. And then when it came time for the prop firm to pay us at the end of the agreed to time, at the end of the first month, the prop firm never paid. They didn't have the funds, and we found out that they didn't believe that we were going to win. And so the main reason the prop firm didn't have the funds is we found out later on that they were paper trading. They weren't really trading real money, because what the prop firm knows is that 95% of the people that actually pass the test and get an account are still going to end up blowing the account. So what they do is they take that 95 grand that they made from the 95 people that failed the test. So they've got those $1,000 bills. They've got 95 of those. They take the 5%, the 5 people that are left. They realize that 3 to 4 of those people are going to fail and lose money. So they don't ever do any real trading. And then the one guy that is successful, even if the one guy makes 10 grand and it's an 80-20 split, they owe him 8,000. They just take his 8,000 out of the 95,000 in fees, and they've got this incredible business model. And technically, in that scenario, the winners probably do get paid. But the problem with our company, with what was going on, it wasn't my company, I was just a part of it. The trouble was everybody was winning. So the trading bot passed 100% of the tests. So everybody that paid for the $1,000, they all got an account. So all of a sudden, the prop firm, instead of having 95 people fail and 5 accounts, they now had 100 accounts. And then they still didn't believe that we were going to win. So they didn't actually do the physical trades. They just did it on paper. And when at the end of the month, it wasn't 100%, the trading bot didn't win 100%, but it won 90+% of the time. So when all of a sudden these 2,000 people that had come in and created accounts were all owed money, the prop firm didn't have the money. I've also been scammed through a couple of Ponzi schemes. I went into them knowing that they could be Ponzi's, but I was willing to take a risk with a small amount of money and try to compound it and see if it would work. And so I'm not going to complain too much about that, because I went in knowing it was a possibility, but I've gotten scammed by a couple of Ponzi schemes. So yeah, I mean, I've had my fair share of failures, guys. But one of the things that I just keep on doing, man, I just keep on rolling along. Same thing with private sales. I've had a lot of private sales that have gone to zero, or that I've lost 95% of my funds on. But I've also had a handful that did 50 or 100 or 400x that way more than made up for it. So let's say that I invest in 10 private sales and 6 or 7 of them go to zero, and 1 or 2 I make a little bit of money on, and then 1 or 2 I do 50 or 100x on. It's still massively profit to have gone in on those 10 private sales. But yeah, I mean, I know going in, half of them or more, I'm probably going to lose, my money on. So ZDA, yeah, I've definitely been scammed. Now, I haven't, knock on wood, man, I need some wood around here. Knock on wood, I haven't been scammed the way that you're talking about in a phishing scam. I did have a few guys back in the old days when I was doing OTC that I sent to first that stole my money. But once again, that was a calculated risk. I had the ability to make, say, $5,000 by buying these tokens from people and then reselling them to people that wanted them. And so what I would do is I would start off like with $25. I'd send them $25. They'd send me back $25 worth of tokens. And we would do that for 2 hours in order to get the whole $5,000 done. And then maybe once they'd sent me $200 or $300 worth of tokens, I'd up it, say, to $50. And then, when I had half the tokens, 2,500 tokens, I'd up it to 100, because once I had a couple $1,000s worth of the tokens in my wallet, I'm selling those tokens on average for double or triple or quadruple what I'm paying for them. So even if they got me for 100, I'd still be extremely profitable. So I've always been pretty good at taking care of myself. But I'm glad that you brought that up. And this is on another topic. But guys, there's some people out there scamming people through Coinbase accounts. I don't know if this has ever happened to you. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you about this, even though it didn't happen to me, but I have a close friend that has significant money invested in crypto, and he had a lot of it on Coinbase, and he got a text message. It started off as a text message saying that somebody in Italy had downloaded the app and had access to his Coinbase account, and that he needed to get his funds moved off of Coinbase. And I know every single one of you that's listening to this is like, well, that's a scam. Like, before I even finished telling you what the text message said, you knew that was a scam. Like, Coinbase is not going to reach out to you. But long story short, it said, if you're interested in our help, give us a call at this number. And he called him. I don't want to call him a dummy because that's not nice. And, I guess in the heat of the moment, all of us can make emotional, irrational decisions. But he called these people, and they managed to talk him into sending $300,000 worth of his crypto to a SafePal wallet. And thank God he has a significant amount of Polkadot and Cosmos staked. And thank God it was staked, because if it wasn't, he would have sent that to him too, and he would have lost over $500,000. But he literally, this just happened 3 days ago, guys. My buddy lost $300,000 to scammers that acted like they were Coinbase representatives. So I tell you this story because just in case you're still a little new to crypto, maybe you're still a little naive and don't understand how it all works. If anybody ever calls you, messages you, if they are the ones initiating the contact, 999,000 out of 100,000 times, they are a scammer. And the one time that they're not a scammer, you should be able to do a video call or something in order to, verify their identity. Like, say Eric Bernstein or Dave P. These guys are friends of mine. They're from the crypto channel, but we've also gotten to know each other, and we've talked outside of the crypto channel. So I might DM Eric. But the thing is Eric knows me now. And the thing is that too, if I DM'd Eric, I guarantee you guys, if I DM'd Eric and said, hey, Eric, this is Brad. I have an emergency. Is there any way that you could please send me $1,000 worth of crypto? I promise you, I'll get it back to you in a couple of days. Eric would be like, scammer alert. That's not Brad. He would know immediately that that's not me. That's not the kind of text message that I'm going to send Eric. So I've talked to Eric about Texacoin. I talked to Eric about AGAPE, but it was a conversation where he knew that it was me. And then he also had the ability, there's been a couple of times where he was getting ready to maybe invest in a private sale. I think even with the Infinite AGAPE token, we got on the phone. He was actually able to hear my voice. We got on a video call. So guys, if somebody messages you on Telegram, if somebody DMs you on Discord, if somebody texts you on your phone or calls you on your phone, they're a scammer. 100%. Like, I hate to say 100% about anything because, like I said, 999,000 out of 100,000 times, maybe 999,999 times out of a million, they're a scammer. Maybe there's a one-time thing where they're not a scammer. But in the event that they're not a scammer, it'll be easy to verify. And they also are not going to be asking you to send crypto to them. They're not going to be asking you, they're not going to be telling you that one of your accounts has been breached. Like, it just drives me nuts. Like, if somebody logs into your Coinbase, like right now, we'll use Eric as the example again. If somehow I hacked into Eric's Coinbase account and I had his username and his password, and somehow I had his two-factor authorization, and I got into his Coinbase account, and Coinbase legitimately realized that somebody had accessed Eric's account, do you think that by the time Coinbase could get in touch with Eric, that there would be any tokens left? Like, I can transfer every token you got out of a wallet in a matter of minutes. So the fact that these guys are telling my buddy, hey, these guys have access to your account and you need to move your tokens, the first thing he should have thought about was, well, if somebody actually has access to my account, it'd be too late. All my tokens would already be gone. Like, there was so many red flags. The other thing is, why in the world would Coinbase tell you to send your funds to this XYZ wallet that you have no control over? Coinbase would tell you in a legitimate situation, hey, you need to go create a MetaMask wallet. You need to go create a Trust wallet. You need to go create whatever wallet and get your Bitcoin sent to that wallet, get your Ethereum sent to your MetaMask wallet. Like, nobody from Coinbase or any legitimate entity would ever ask you to send your tokens to them. Like, can you imagine if I called Eric up and said, hey, Eric, man, I got some intel. Somebody's got a hold of your Coinbase wallet and you need to send me all your tokens. You know, here's my wallet address and send me all your tokens. I'll take good care of them for you until you could get your Coinbase account situated. Like, Eric would look at me like I had 3 heads. But anyways, the important part of the conversation is, don't be fooled by these guys. Like, it should have been an automatic hang up. Instead, now my buddy's in touch with the FBI and got all sorts of crazy stuff going on, trying to track these, you know, scammers down, which I'm sure he'll never be able to do. But, you know, look at here. You know, I connected my wallet to a website that looked legit, but the link changed as I went through Google. Always go through official channels. I mean, yeah, there's always, you know, an amazing amount of scammers out there. It just amazes me how many people think it's a better life or an easier life to make their money by stealing from other people. Most of these people, a lot of them are pretty incredibly smart people. And if they were just to put all of that effort into a legitimate business or something, you know, worthy, they'd probably make more money and they'd definitely have a lot better, higher quality of life. But Zada, you know, the other point that I make is, yeah, man, I've been scammed. I've had a lot of things that turned out poorly, but it didn't cause me to quit. And that was another, you know, back to the very beginning of all work works. Just some of it's working for you, some of it's working on you, is if you have the awareness that when something isn't working, that's not necessarily a sign that you shouldn't be doing it. It's probably a sign that you need to get a little bit better at it. Like, you know, so some people will go out and they'll talk to 25 or 50 of their friends about Texitcoin and none of them will join, where I've talked to 25 or 50 people and, you know, half of them have jumped in. Well, part of it is, you know, I have a pretty good understanding of Texitcoin, and so I probably do a better job of explaining it. The other thing is, for the most part, I try not to explain it. Like, one of the worst things that you can do with a company like Texitcoin or most businesses is try to explain everything yourself. Everything should be done through a third-party tool. Well, what is a third-party tool? Well, back in the day when I was like selling Legal Shield memberships, we had DVDs. I wouldn't try to explain to everybody exactly what the legal membership was and how it worked and everything about it. I would give them a DVD, and a professional presenter would share on the DVD everything about the Legal Shield membership, you know. And then back with that business, you could bring people onto your team and they could sell the legal memberships. You could help train them. They could sell the legal memberships in their own business. They could make their own money. But because you were the one that shared it with them, you made a little bit of an override. The Legal Shield company paid you a little bit of an override on every membership that those people sold. So same thing with the business opportunity. I didn't try to share the Legal Shield business opportunity by telling people about it. I would just say, hey, I don't know if you're open to making some extra money. If you're open to making like an extra, you know, $1,000 a month, $1,000 a week, watch this DVD and I'll get back in touch with you. They would watch the DVD. And then even then, when somebody watched the DVD and they were interested, especially when I was newer to Legal Shield, I didn't try to answer all their questions. I immediately said, hey, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that question. Let me put them on the phone. You know, let me get you on the phone with the expert. A gentleman's been with Legal Shield for 10 years. He's making, you know, six figures a year or more with this company. Let me have him answer your questions. And I would put him on the phone with one of my experts, and they would answer the person's questions. You know, it's very similar. The people that are having the most success with me in Texitcoin that have made some commissions. I've had several, 4 or 5 people now make $2,000 or $3,000 in the last month. So it's not like, it's not something that it just for me. I've had people that have came in and bought miners, and now they're making an extra $1,000, $2,000 a month. But one of the things that they're doing very well is they're not trying to sell the miners themselves. They're just getting in touch with people and saying, hey, watch this YouTube video. And we got a couple of 10, 15-minute YouTube videos that we send people. And then after the person's watched the YouTube video, if they're interested, they put them on the phone with me and they let me answer all their questions. And I recommend for any of you, if you ever get involved in Texitcoin, especially if you get involved in Texitcoin with me, let me do the heavy lifting. You can share some not DVDs. You can share YouTube videos with people that you know. But when people are interested, just say, hey, I'm pretty new to this. I don't want to screw it up. I don't want to try to answer all of your questions. Let me put you on the phone with my friend Brad. He's an expert. He's already been, he's already made, tens of thousands of dollars with this company. His miners are producing $75 to $100 a day in passive income. He's got a YouTube channel and blah, blah, blah. Let me put you on the phone with Brad. And I'm happy to answer all of their questions and help you help them. That's, part of what I do. Let me see here. Deadwood says, why are you all... Good morning, Deadwood. Good to see you, buddy. Why are you all not using Pocket Universe and Scam Sniffer to scan the links and contracts before you attach to them? Wallet Guard is made into MetaMask now. There are warnings if you read before you click. Absolutely. Such a great point, Deadwood. Thank you for bringing that up. I would say, that most of the time when one of us allows ourselves to get scammed, it's because we moved too fast. We saw something that was exciting. Scammers are incredible at creating urgency, making it feel like you have to do something immediately. And so I agree with you. I think that, one of the things that they do is they will do things that cause you to not use the tools that you should. But definitely, what a great thing. Like I've got a link checker on my computer through my VPN. I use NordVPN, and like right now I go to my browser and I type in LIN and it pops up link checker through NordVPN. This is for a lot of the stuff that I'm getting in my emails when they want me to click on links, when they want me to look at their projects, and when they want me to do different things. But for the most part, I'm with Deadwood here on this, that it's important to protect yourself. And if you don't know how to do that, like if you don't know what, Pocket Universe and Scam Sniffer are, go Google them right now. Go check them out. Get them on your computer, figure out how to use them, and make sure that make sure that you do the right things. I mean, especially guys, one of the worst feelings in the world, and I thank God I haven't experienced it yet, and I pray that I never do, but is working for 2, 3, 4, 5 years to build up life-changing money. And then because you click on one wrong link, make one stupid decision, give one person information that you shouldn't, it's all gone. So, this turned into a little bit of a different topic, and I do have to run. But guys, protect yourselves. Don't have all of your funds in one spot. I mean, if you got $1 million in crypto, that should be spread out over, I don't know, probably at least 10 different places. I wouldn't have more than $100,000 in any one spot. I mean, yeah, that would be a sickening amount of money to lose. But if you got $1 million and somehow you got scammed out of 100,000 of it, you could still sleep at night having 900 grand laying around. But can you imagine, having your bankroll, your portfolio finally built up to 100,000, 150,000, and you're thinking that over the next few months, alt season hits and you might have life-changing money, and then somebody scams you for your whole 150,000. I mean, that could be heartbreaking. That could cause people to do irrational things, that they could make They could take a permanent solution to a temporary problem very easily with something like that happening, especially if you've got spouses and significant others that have been rooting you on and praising you, and and you've been telling them how you're going to change your financial life and how it's going to be better, and then something like that happens. That is the kind of stuff that can knock a person down all the way into the fetal position on the ground and have them just never get up in life. So it's not even about the money in some ways. Like, you don't want to open yourself up to an opportunity to destroy your life to the point where you never can come back. Now, once again, all things work. They're either working for you or they're working on you. In my opinion, if something like that happened, you should be able to come back from it bigger, better, stronger. If you took the last couple of years to earn 100,000 in crypto, obviously with all of the skills and talents and everything that you've learned, you should be able to put that $100,000 back together way quicker than a couple of years. So, I mean, even if that horrible thing were to happen to you, please, guys, don't do anything stupid. Don't harm yourself. Don't make a permanent solution out of a temporary problem. But, at the same time, let's avoid it, guys. Like, part of the reason that I haven't had some of those bad things happen in my life is I've been extremely diligent. I'm still one of those guys that'll send a test. Like, I'm getting ready to send $5,000 somewhere. I'll send a test for $5, even though I know I've done this stuff thousands of times now. I'll still do a test. I'm also the guy that checks the front and the back of the address. I can't tell you how many times I thought I copied a new address, went to send funds to some place, and when I double checked the address, for some reason, the previous address that I sent to was still in there. And, so, I mean, another way that I got scammed one time is I did a giveaway, and I was trying to give 100 gains tokens to like 10 different people. And somehow, like a dummy, I mean, I didn't get scammed, but I sent the whole 1,000 tokens to one person. And unfortunately, this guy was a thief, because we were connected on Discord. We were talking back and forth. I had his address. I said, hey, I'm getting ready to send you the tokens. I sent him the tokens. And literally, as soon as I clicked send, I realized the mistake that I made. But I really wasn't that worried about it. I messaged him on Discord and said, hey, man, I'm such a dummy. I sent you the whole 1,000 tokens. Can you send me 900 of them back, please? As the giveaway that only 100 of those tokens were for you. Can you please send me back the other 900? And he never did. He just ghosted me, deleted his Discord, ghosted me, and was never to be seen again. At the time, I think those tokens were only worth, maybe $300 or something. It was like a $300 giveaway. Tokens were 30 cents a piece, and I was giving 10 people like $30 worth. He got the whole 300. And then on the other fun part was then I had to go buy the other 270 and make good to the other 9 people. But that was a time where I moved too fast. I didn't double check the transaction. I didn't double check the amount. But I've also had many times where I almost sent funds, to the wrong address. Another thing that I did, I finally got it back, but I sent like $600 in USDT to Mexi Global to the wrong wallet. So I sent it on the Binance Smart Chain network, and it was the wrong wallet. It took me like 6 months and like $100 worth of fees to get it back. That's not being scammed, but it's also not being careful. Like, I literally sent Ethereum tokens to a Binance Smart Chain address on Mexi. And then like 30 minutes later, when nothing had shown up, I finally figured out what I did. So I think that Deadwood just mentioned it too, that we definitely sometimes we move too quick. As Deadwood says, these tools are free, man. You guys are definitely, it doesn't cost that much money, if any, to protect yourself. So, excuse me. Well, guys, that's what I got for today. Back home, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you all for being here. Hopefully, there was a little bit of value. You guys enjoyed today's content. And just remember, folks, all work works. It's either working for you, which is amazing when it's working for you and you're getting the results and things are, fairly smooth and things are going well. That's awesome. But most of the time, the work is going to be working on you. And remember that and go through life smiling. Just remember that no bringing you closer to a yes. That presentation that didn't work, that's okay. It's getting you better at being a presenter. Like, think about public speakers and actors and just, like anybody, even me. Go back and watch some of the first 10, 15, 20 videos that I made as a YouTuber. They were awful. They were awful. I get better at speaking all the time, but it takes time. Whether it was walking or learning how to ride a bike, or how many hours did you spend learning how to do 8 times 8, your multiplication table? Spent hours and hours in the 3rd grade learning multiplication and stuff. So folks, somehow as kids, we understand that we got to start off bad at something in order to be good at it. But as adults, we all forget about that, and we all want to be good at everything right from the beginning, and that's just not going to happen. It's not life. We are all bad at everything that we are good at now. We were all bad at it once. So quit being worried about the time that it takes while you're being bad, and just hit it hard. Some people will be bad at stuff for years because they try to get good at it so slowly, so incrementally. Last tip, I recommend fully immersing yourself in things. You can get good at something in 6 months if you're doing it daily. It might take you 5 years if you're doing it once a week or once a month, because repetition is powerful. And I promise you, if you do something once a week for a month and you only got 4 reps in, not only if you do it every day for a month are you going to have 30 reps, but you also don't have 6 days to forget what you learned in between either. So repetition and consistency. Get good at doing it on a daily basis. Just do it, just do it every day if it's something that you really sincerely want to get good at. With that, folks, thank you all for being here. God bless you. Love you all. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Bye-bye for now.